These are three of SpongeBob's scariest episodes. Starting off with the third scariest, we have Survival of the Idiots. This episode starts with SpongeBob and Patrick, who are on their way to Sandy's dome, until suddenly they stopped. For some unknown reason, Sandy's tree dome had been completely sealed with metal, and her door had a sign hung to keep anyone from going in. The question is, what exactly was Sandy trying to keep out? Or better yet, what was she trying to keep in? Naturally, both SpongeBob and Patrick ignored the signs to stay away, but before they actually got to entering the dome, they watched the video message Sandy had left behind for anyone thinking about going in. She explained that it was normal for her kind to sleep through winter till spring, which is a real thing also known as hibernation. She continued to explain that waking up a hibernating animal was not a very wise idea, hence why she didn't want anyone going inside. This actually almost convinced them to leave, but after they peeked inside and saw that her dome was snowing, they were instead convinced to stay, if only for a little while. A horrible decision, as we'll soon see. Once they got in, they immediately got in the snow and played, but that only lasted for a few moments before something else caught their attention. From inside Sandy's tree, there was a distracting noise, which once again, they let get the better of them. The noise was coming from Sandy. She was snoring very loudly, but that wasn't the only thing they discovered. Sandy had also started speaking in her sleep, and as you've probably noticed, she'd grown larger. In her dream, Sandy was a sheriff chasing down two outlaws, Dirty Dan and Pinhead Larry. SpongeBob and Patrick found this really funny, so they pretended to be these two outlaws to get Sandy to react in her sleep, which they found even funnier. They found it so funny, in fact, that their laughter was loud enough to wake Sandy up. And if you remember from earlier, this was the exact thing Sandy told them to avoid. Sandy hadn't exactly woken up from her sleep though. The noise had only woke her into a sleepwalk. In fact, she still believed she was in her dream. The thing was, by pretending to be the outlaws from her dream, Sandy was convinced that both of them were who she was trying to capture. And before SpongeBob and Patrick could escape, she grabbed both of them. Before doing any harm, she thankfully went back to bed. By now, it was pretty clear to both of them that staying wasn't a wise option. But regardless, they went outside again and continued playing. Outside, they kept pretending to be the outlaws from Sandy's dream. Without even realizing it, their playing was creating so much commotion that vibrations were sent up Sandy's tree, which once again woke her into a sleepwalk. The difference this time was that she wouldn't rest so easily. Once she woke up, she made her way out of her tree and once again didn't recognize SpongeBob and Patrick. They barely recognized her. This wasn't their friend anymore, and they were in danger. Before they could react, she grabbed Patrick, lifting him up and completely ripping his head off before tossing him aside. SpongeBob wouldn't go down as quickly, but he'd suffer a similar fate. He ran away as fast as he could, but it didn't matter how fast he ran. Sandy was faster. After she caught up to him, SpongeBob was thrown to the ground, smashing a hole into it. When he got up, he grabbed a piece of wood to defend himself, but just as he threw it, Patrick came back in and took the hit instead, knocking both of them into the hole. This gave Sandy the perfect opportunity to finish them off, which she did, burying both of them beside her tree after she was finished. They weren't dead though. They eventually dug their way out of the grave. Although they didn't appear to be physically hurt from the attack, they were now completely horrified. And finally, SpongeBob and Patrick agreed that it was time to leave. They fought their way through the snow and made their way to the door. Except now, there was a new problem. The cold in Sandy's dome had frozen the door shut, and since the whole place was sealed with metal, they couldn't alert anyone from outside. Their only choice was to wait for the door to thaw when the cold ended, but that wouldn't be until winter was over. If Sandy wasn't the one to finish them, then the cold would. So they made a horrible decision once again. They planned to sneak back inside Sandy's tree and pluck some of her fur out to use for warmth, which obviously risked waking her up again, likely angrier than before. But they went through with the plan regardless. Plucking eventually turned into fully waxing her. and through some miracle, they walked out completely unscathed. But by the time they got around to using the fur they'd taken, winter had already ended. Sandy woke up from her nap, having returned to her original form, and the episode ended with both of them paying the price for stealing her fur. It's easy to see why this episode makes the list. SpongeBob and Patrick were in real danger all throughout the episode. And the episode really leans into it instead of playing it off as another adventure. Seeing Sandy become a monstrous version of herself, not just in size, but in aggression and mentality, makes this episode one of the scariest in the entire show. But it's nowhere near as scary as this next one. The next episode starts just outside of Glove World. SpongeBob and Patrick had spent an entire day down there, and finally they were waiting to take the bus home. For now, nothing was out of the ordinary. They got on the bus, albeit in their own irregular fashion, but regardless, the episode started off pretty regularly. But that took a 90-degree turn quickly, both figuratively and literally. The bus SpongeBob and Patrick boarded was actually headed away from their home. It went down deeper into the ocean before they could even tell the driver to stop. The bus did eventually stop. It is a secluded and dim town called Rock Bottom. The bus driver quickly kicked them out before they could even process where they were. This was clearly part of the ocean they'd never been to before, and had they known about it, they'd have avoided it either way. There was something off about the town. Not just the weird sand and the weird fish that lived down there, but unlike what these two were used to, this place seemed quiet, and not in the relaxing way. Paranoia flooded their heads immediately, Patrick especially. But what could they really do except wait? So that's what they did. Again, it was all they could do, really. Seeing how a bus station, which was the only source of light, was right next to them, they took the opportunity to go check the schedule. Unfortunately for SpongeBob, who was the only one who went to